Welcome into TC After Dark. I'm TC, and the studio light just went off. Let's go. It was a year ago, 52 episodes ago, that I launched this podcast and said that opening for the very first time. Actually, I didn't say it quite like that. Here's the beginning of the trailer. Welcome into TC After Dark. I'm TC. The studio light just went off. Let me explain. I said let me explain because I wanted to explain why it was called TC After Dark, which, of course, does sound vaguely racy. And I did explain. If you're new here, you may not realize the sex show origins of this podcast. Go listen to the trailer. But after the trailer, I started saying, let's go. I'm TC, and the studio light just went off. Let's go. It seems so simple, but as you know, if you've been listening for a while, let's go has always had a specific meaning in my family. Let's Go travel guides are put out by Harvard student agencies, staffed by a group of researcher writers, undergraduates who fan out all over the globe every summer to update the guides while working with student editors who are based in Cambridge. When we were in college, my sister worked for a summer as a researcher writer for part of France, and I went along to keep her company. Let's go, allons-y. It was a wonderful summer. Fast forward 30 years, and my daughter Emma worked as a travel writer for Let's Go, covering parts of Spain and Portugal. An incredible experience, and one which I will always be grateful for, as she introduced me to the Portuguese lunch wine, Vinho Verde, which I still drink every single weekend. Oh, and she also learned a lot about writing and working as well. That's kind of important, but I digress. So what have I learned in a year? I've learned that, as with all things in life, podcasting gets easier as you go along. I was listening the other day to John Meacham's incredible podcast, It Was Said. If you haven't taken a listen, you should. I have so much respect for his work and his voice, but I have to admit, I was blown away the most by the credits at the end. I lost count of how many people were involved in the development, research, writing, producing, editing, you name it. When you're the little guy, it's just you, meaning just me. So as I talked about in my first episode, I had a lot to do to set up the website and the podcast and the hosting service. Frankly, it got a little overwhelming at times before it all started. And the one thing I want you all to take away from that very first episode is this. A few months ago, my daughter sent me Brené Brown's podcast on FFTs. Now, FFT stands for first time. I'm sorry, Mom. I know, but I'm quoting, and it's important for emphasis. And for the rest of you, yes, I am a grown woman, and I still do not want to offend my mama. May the rest of you be so respectful, okay? Don't give me a hard time. Anyway, FFTs, Emma told me to listen to Brené Brown, and she was so right. I have raised a wiser woman than I am. When you're dealing with FFTs, meaning the first effing time you set up a website, or you edited a podcast, or you developed a logo, or you made 1,001 decisions, these things are stressful and they're scary. But then they're not, because they're done. And they're not FFTs anymore, and you're better at them. And here's the bottom line. Change is scary. Risk is scary. FFTs are really, really scary, especially when so many are piling on you at the same time. But they're also transient. Things will get better. Back in real time now, that's the biggest lesson. Taking in the concept of FFTs and understanding that once you conquer something, it no longer has that hold over you. It's hard until it's not. That's a really powerful lesson that I learned going into this project, and I continue to internalize it. Hey, speaking of FFTs, if it's your first time dealing with retirement planning, etc., I have a solution for you. His name is Steve Cordasco, and he sponsors this podcast. And he asks, does the stimulus spending have you worrying about the future of inflation and what it means to you? Because inflation can affect both your money and your lifestyle. Having a financial plan that acts in your best interest and can be adjusted during times of change is critical. So do what so many of my podcast listeners have done. Give Cordasco Financial Network a call. Talk to a member of the team, just like I did. I met with John Walker, my friend Johnny Walker, who explained the process of how they build around your priorities, who you are today, and how changing times can impact your tomorrow. Schedule your free financial planning consultation today. Call 855-558-3500. Be sure to mention TC After Dark. Call 855-558-3500. One more time, listen, 855-558-3500 for Cordasco Financial Network. They're a member of FINRA and securities provided through Andrew Garrett, Inc. So back to a year of TC After Dark. I've learned as I put my random notions and ideas into the world that, unbelievably enough, you are all understanding and appreciating what I'm saying. And a lot of you even share what goes on inside my head. I know this because so many of you reach out to me via social media or my website, tcafterdarkpodcast.com. And for that, I am so appreciative. I've learned this past year that I love talking about food and wine. I actually knew that before, but the storytelling aspect of recipes is really something I enjoy. And I think the fact that I'm not an expert trained chef, I'm just someone normal that loves to cook and eat what I cook and cook for others and have a glass of wine or a beer or three along the way. It seems many of you can relate. The food stories that I've been doing started with episode 15, which I named the best episode or the worst. And here's that explanation. So I woke up one day last week early. My alarm is set for 4:45 a.m., but I usually wake up naturally closer to 4:30-ish. And this is what I wrote in my notebook. I love to read cookbooks, which is true. But can I build an episode around that? Here's the answer. The answer is yes. Evidently I can. And it's making me so happy I cannot even tell you. Ask my husband. He claims that the next day, as I was joyfully picking which cookbooks to use, which recipes to talk about, that I came into his office with what he describes, I'm sure not correctly, as a manic look and proclaimed, "This could be a series." And indeed, it has become a series. And that maniacal expression that I was so excited about when I launched this first one, there have been 4 more food stories since then. Food Story 5 was just last week, episode 51. You know, I've also had food people and wine people and hospitality people, and I just love talking about all aspects of the food industry. If you're looking for those, episode 8, Wine for Normal People with my friend Elizabeth Schneider. She's the one that told me how to properly pronounce Vinho Verde because I was calling it, I can't remember how I was calling it. What was I calling it? Vino Verde, but it's Vinho Verde. There you go. See, I'm so much more cultured now. You'll learn a lot. And if you like cheese, or even if you don't and want to learn more about it, Madame Fromage, episode 20, Calling All Curd Nerds, all about cheese. And both of those, Wine for Normal People and Madame Fromage, you will learn and it will make you hungry and thirsty. Chef Vivian Howard of Chef and the Farmer, This Will Make It Taste Good, her new cookbook, just absolutely extraordinary. I love everything about her. Table for 3 was the time I hosted Thanksgiving for the very first time because it was in the middle of a pandemic. So usually we travel and we couldn't. Episode 26, we all missed our family, but what a wonderful memory from this pandemic year. I loved cooking Thanksgiving dinner. And then episode 49, just recently, Front of the House with Jeff Benjamin of Vetri Family here in Philadelphia about the hospitality industry. So coming out of the kitchen and into the front of the house. I could talk about food and the food industry all day long, but I have to say, more than anything else, you all love my conversations with Michael Smerconish. It's not a mystery to me. That's how most of you know me. And I cannot thank you enough for stepping over to the podcast and listening to just me and sometimes Michael and me. Because, oh my Lord, the 2 podcasts I've done so far with him have been far and away the most popular. It's neat because they've both been field trips. In episode 17, which is Have a Cigar, Michael and I sit on his back porch and smoke cigars. Yeah, I did too. Take a listen.
You want me to light that for you? Are you going to try it?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you know what end?
Hang on. Let me see. All right, so
Turn it around, TC.
wait a minute. Which end am I?
The label goes by your mouth. There you go.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I snipped it.
No, you snipped this end.
Yes, put that in your mouth.
Oh, you snipped the end that you... Okay, so now
my
what do I
God.
do? Just breathe in?
Hold on. Hold it like this. Hold it like this
you know
with
what
some
happened
comfort.
to my finger, right?
Then smoke with your other hand. Make your left hand your smoking hand.
I don't have a smoking hand.
Which one is your
this
bad?
This is my bad finger. Can't you tell?
Okay,
Look
then
at it.
that's on your right hand?
Yes.
Smoke with your left.
No, I can't. All right.
Here, try a cigarette.
I don't smoke cigarettes.
Ready?
I don't
Come
know.
on. Yeah, there you go. Come on. You're doing that for effect.
I think I inhaled.
You are doing that for effect.
Okay, so now what is this? A cigarello? What am I smoking?
Yeah, it's a Cohiba Panatella.
Okay. I'm laughing. I laugh every time I hear that clip. It is so funny to me. And actually, I inhaled, so I was legitimately choking. Oh my gosh, what a riot. And then episode 35, old school, Michael and I literally drove around his hometown of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, visiting his elementary, middle, and high schools and telling stories all along the way. I mean, from one school to another. He would point at a house and say, hey, you wouldn't believe the party that was in that house in 9th grade. It is just incredible. So yes, I have plans for the next one. They range from gardens to a walk to golf to fishing to drinking to magic. I mean, stay tuned. Stay tuned. So what else did I learn this year? Sex sells. Yes, I'm talking about episode 14. Time to talk about sex with David Dr. Lay. I know the name. But here's the thing. I can't play any for you. I just spent the weekend in Raleigh with my parents. It was my fabulous mother's birthday. We went to church at St. Michael's in person. I got to see the Rockin' Rev, Greg. Thank you. My parents, they do not like all the sex talk. Oh, no, they do not. So, shh. It was a very, very popular episode, but we are not going to talk about it. Let's go to safer ground. Here's another thing I've learned. My siblings make good radio. Episode 19, I called Brotherly Love, and it was with my brother, Colbert Cannon. And one of the funny stories that was told, does my brother's family have a dog named after my husband? Why, yes, they do. And here's Colbert to explain.
I have a dog, and for your listeners, my dog is named Joey after your husband.
Okay,
true story.
Wait, side note, you do need to tell the story.
Let me digress. Fine. The dog came to us with the name Joaquin, which is, I believe, a mispronunciation of Joaquin, just for clarity. But it responded to Joaquin, which we thought was a little bit of a ludicrous name. So we were like, maybe we call it Joey. I called your husband and said, listen, this is, to be clear, an honorific. Like, this is because I love you so much and you're a great dog person. Will you be offended if I name my dog after you? His response was no. He was totally on board. Now, did we confuse our mother greatly in this? It's a disaster. I mean, she's confused if we're talking about Joey the dog or Joey the human all the time.
By the way, now we have to say Joey the dog or Joey the human in our family.
Correct.
Yeah, we do. We have to say Joey the dog or Joey the human. When I'm talking to my brother, his family, anyone really, unless it's very clear that I'm talking about Joey the human, there is that differentiation now in my family. Episode 33, I called The Cannon Sisters with my sister, Christy Cannon Lorgan. Now, my sister lives in Oslo, Norway. There's a longer explanation as to why, and if you listen to that episode, you will know. But as part of the episode, I made her say my very favorite expression in Norwegian. One more saying, since you just said a saying, and then now I'm thinking of Norway, that I say all the time that is so you, is... especially good today when it's 23 degrees outside, there's no bad weather, only bad clothing.
So that is a wonderful Norwegian expression, which rhymes in Norwegian.
Please say it.
I will say it. Det finnes ikke dårlig vær, bare dårlig klær. Did you get the rhyme?
No, please say it one more time. Please, just say it very clearly. Go ahead.
Because it has several Norwegian letters in it, which are not letters in English, which is the A with a circle on top and the A and E kind of squished together, which are O and A. Det finnes ikke dårlig vær, bare dårlig klær. There's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing.
Okay, I need to learn how to say it in Norwegian. I'm just going to play that on a loop over and over again and learn it. Yeah, I haven't quite learned it yet, but I still say it all the time in English. Also, a lot of people felt that my sister and I have very similar sounding voices. Our voices used to be basically identical, but she's lived overseas for so many years and with a Norwegian husband that I think her voice is a little bit more clipped now. But yeah, we still sound very, very similar. And I heard that from a lot of people. So people I love make good podcasts, meaning I love my brother, I love my sister, and talking to them made 2 very popular podcasts. Other people I love also make good episodes. Annie Duke is a very popular podcast guest. She was actually my very first guest for episode 2. Episode 1 was just me solo, and then she was my first guest. And she made a return visit in episode 21. She is a great friend and truly one of the most brilliant people I know. Most of the time, I'm just trying to keep up with her. Her mind, I think, works on an entirely different plane. But take a listen to those and see how I did. Episode 2, How to Decide, and episode 21, How to Decide, Part 2. Classmates and roommates from college have made appearances. So many of you were moved and very interested in one of my roommates, Dr. Christine Gedrick. Finding Your Way to Well was episode 45 and was very interesting, discussing her integrative medical practice and what she looks at to keep you healthy and to make you healthy if you're not. Those of you who know me from Michael Smerconish especially appreciated episode 9, COVID and Compassionomics, with Dr. Maz, Anthony Mazzarelli, who was Michael's very, very first intern 100 years ago and is now the CEO of Cooper Health and the head of emergency medicine at Cooper Hospital. So he is just incredible. He's also the author with Dr. Stephen Tresiak of the book Compassionomics, which I was lucky enough to do the voice for the audiobook. And during our interview for his episode of TC After Dark, he surprised me with some outtakes. Well, actually, first he scolded me for not keeping the outtakes, which I promised him I would, but I didn't swear. And I don't know, still do not know how he got this outtakes, but listen to this part of our episode.
You don't remember something you had promised to deliver along with the final copy of the audiobook?
Oh, I do, but I didn't swear enough.
All right, well, you said just now this was a labor of love, and I want people to understand this is the kind of effort you put in. This is TC's effort to get one single word correct. You ready? Oh, no. This is one word.
Similarly, oh God, not that again. Similarly, listen.
Wait, I'll start over. You got to hear this whole thing. You ready, TC? Because I beeped out the curse. Don't worry. Listen.
Similarly, oh God, not that again. Similarly, Similarly, just sounds ridiculous. Similarly, an NIH similarly.
So that's. No, I got one more.
I am crying, laughing again, listening back to that clip from Maz's episode. I don't know where he got the audio. I'm dying. And still, to this day, whenever I hear or try to say the word similarly, it just gets caught in my mouth. It just does. I just can't believe it. Anyway, I love that part of the interview. And that is so, it's so typical of our relationship, Maz and me. We know each other very well, and he is just so clever with these things and able to get me. Even in my own podcast interview, he was able to get me. So you all love Maz, and you also loved meeting my Sirius XM colleague, Dan, aka DC Radio Dan, in episode 41, talking about his life in radio and his cancer and his volunteer firefighting and EMT work and his rules. You know that one? It was interesting and poignant and funny and really, really struck a chord. Fitness plays a role in so much of what I do, and so many of you share my love of Peloton, and even more this past year as gyms have been shut down. I've been all in on Peloton, and I was thrilled to be able to interview Christine Dercole, who's one of the cycling coaches, instructors at Peloton. Episode 13 is called I Am, I Can, I Will, I Do. Why? Well, that's her signature saying. Why does she use that as a signature saying? Of course, I asked her.
I've always been intrigued with the power of words and with tone of voice. In 2005 or 6, I was teaching a class, and it was the last song in the class, and it's these Japanese koto drums, instrumental, incredibly powerful. And I'm walking the room, which was a thing that used to happen, telling everyone, this just came out of nowhere. It literally came out of nowhere. I want you to turn that resistance up until you think you can't handle it more, and then you tell yourself, I am, I can, I will, I do. And the whole room went, yeah! And everybody got to the top. And then they were euphoric and full of endorphins. And after class, there was just a lot of chatter about, I am, I can, I will, I do.
There's still a lot of chatter about I am, I can, I will, I do. I love taking her classes. I love how she makes me think about the words that we listen to that are inside our head. And at the end of every class, she says, sit up like you're proud, like you know, I am, I can, I will, I do, because you just did. And these are really powerful expressions to hold with yourself. She has taught me a lot about listening to the voices inside your head. Speak to yourself kindly, because you're always listening. I often say to friends who are giving themselves a hard time, you would never talk like that to me. You would never give me the hard time that you're giving yourself. Talk to yourself as though you were talking to one of your friends. Be kind. Be strong. Whew, yeah, a lot from that this year. George Wood, birding is a verb. I have to say, I loved this episode. That's episode 39. It's not a world I knew much about. I knew George because George Wood is a friend of mine, and I knew how passionate he was. But his storytelling and his excitement just made that episode so much fun. Let me give you an example. Here he is explaining to me the different levels of bird, the different codes. There's a whole numbering system for the most exotic or the most rare sighting. So here's a little bird story for you.
I have all but 3 code 2s, and I know where they are.
Where are they? Let's go.
Well, one can be seen in the plains of Oklahoma in the winter, and I haven't done that.
That's
one.
tough. That's tough.
That's the Smith's Longspur. I want to add that bird to my list, but the only time I can get it is in the winter in the Midwest. There's a swift that lives under waterfalls in Colorado. I haven't seen him, but I've tried several times. Not an easy bird to get. And then there's a rail with a chicken-like bird in Louisiana. You can only reliably have a chance to see that bird in the fall when the farmers are reaping their crops and these birds pop up.
So much goes into it. Okay, so now I'm back in real time again. Okay, did you hear that? And obviously I'm already completely into this. You can tell in my voice. But the plains of Oklahoma in the winter, the waterfalls in Colorado, the reaping of the hay in Louisiana, this is the level of detail. You must listen to this episode. It's unbelievable. And then from birding to ranching, another topic I didn't know anything about, but I'm not alone in loving Five Mary's Farms. Mary Heffernan and her husband Brian and their 4 daughters, all named Mary, work a farm in Northern California. They ship beef and lamb and pork directly to you, but they're involved in so many other ventures. There's an online entrepreneur course, a restaurant in town. They're building their own butchering facility. And then they have a busy life of a working farm and 4 girls. And in episode 10, called, of course, Five Mary's Farm, to prove there's nothing she can't do, here's Mary explaining how she learned to castrate pigs.
So Brian's like, I have to do this, and this. And like, can you go castrate those piglets? And I was like, yeah, no problem. So
I love that you just said yes, like as though you know how to castrate piglets.
Yeah. Thanks to the internet, I found a video of like a Swahili man. It was in Swahili, but I was like, well, it can't be any different to just do it. And so I watched it and went out there and did it, and got the job done.
You just kind of yadas over the best part. How exactly do you castrate a piglet? Just how?
Well, we've had some interns who've worked in pig operations, and I always impress them with my castrating skills because I can do it single-handed. But you get the little piglet between your knees, and you got to be away from the mama because the mama will come attack you. But a sharp knife is the 100%. You have to have a sharp knife, and it's really 2 little slits, and they pop right out. And if you do it right, you do some betadine, but they're running around
they
right
just heal right up.
No issues.
So there you go. I just, I bring you how to castrate pigs. It's just kind of amazing. Actually, my favorite line in that, which I said yada, yada, yada over the castrating pigs. Whew, okay. Yeah. Sometimes I think I'm so funny, but in all seriousness, you know what all of these people that I just talked about have in common? Passion for whatever it is they're doing. And guess what? Passion is appealing and interesting and makes for good conversation and good episodes. If you're not that into birding, would you think a conversation about birding would be your cup of tea? I challenge you right now to listen to episode 39 and not get hooked by the storytelling and enthusiasm of George Wood. I am saying to you, it is so infectious. Speaking of passion, I just want to say thank you so much to Wild Alaskan Company. They are a sponsor of this podcast, a relatively new sponsor, and I am all in with this company. Here's what they are. They are experts in getting the highest quality, sustainably sourced seafood right to your door. You become a member and decide what kind of fish you want. Do you want salmon? Do you want whitefish? Do you want a combination of the two? And they come to you fresh, frozen, and they are individually packaged in a gorgeous box that I'm telling you, there is magic in every step of the way for Wild Alaskan Company. My most recent preparation, Wild Alaskan Company halibut. I pulled out 2 pieces of halibut. I put them in a baking tray and topped them with a little olive oil, a little lemon juice, and then a mix of breadcrumbs and lemon zest, a little paprika, salt, and pepper. All I did was press that down, put a little bit more olive oil and a little bit more lemon juice on top, into the oven around 400 degrees, 12 to 14 minutes. That's it. That is it. And it was the most perfect dinner with a green salad and perfect for my husband and me. And here's the deal. They are so confident in the taste and quality of Alaska's seafood, they offer a 100% money-back guarantee. You can change or pause your delivery date at any time. Try Wild Alaskan Company. You'll be supporting this podcast, and you'll be getting phenomenal seafood right to your home. Right now, get $15 off your first box of wild-caught seafood when you visit wildalaskancompany.com/TC. So easy. Use my name. That's wildalaskancompany.com/TC for $15 off your first box. Do it right now. wildalaskancompany.com/TC. Speaking of passion and love, you wouldn't think an episode about cancer would be popular and uplifting, would you? But my conversation with my husband about his battle with lymphoma touched so many of you. I was stunned and often moved to tears by how many of you are going through similar journeys, either with your own health or someone you love. I am thinking right now of each of you, and I've tried to respond to all of the emails and texts and messages on Instagram that came through, specifically when cancer is involved. I've really tried to respond. I'm thinking of you and hoping that your stories are still strong. Let me tell you, Joey really did not want to record this one. He did it in the hopes that it might help one other person talk more openly about cancer and the treatment. We wanted to demystify chemo and radiation. We wanted to give people the words if they were searching. And here was his advice from someone who doesn't always like to take help. He urges you to.
I say allow your friends in, allow your family in, allow them to be part of it because they will go through this process with you. It'll make it better for you, but it'll make it better for them as well. That to me is the biggest take home, maybe even why I agreed to do this with you.
Under duress.
Is to sort of say allow people to experience it the way they need to, but allow them to do things for you, allow them to be good to you, don't always turn them away because you think it's going to disrupt their lives.
Very well said.
But I would say that that having a wingman and a cheerleader that encourages the way you do was very lucky, and I can't say enough about that.
Well, I feel very, very lucky, and I am so glad that you are here to tell this story. These stories have very different endings depending on the call you get. So thank you. Thank you for coming into TC After Dark.
Can we have dinner now?
Yes. That was obviously my favorite part and his favorite part. Whenever we talk about this episode, we always say, can we have dinner now? Because that was his end. And yes, of course, we did go and have dinner and are so happy now that we're both vaccinated, double vaxxed, and can soon start having dinner out, and his immunity continues to be better and better, and he is doing great. So thank you to everyone who's been asking about him. So far, so good. Onward and through it. Onward and through it, episode 11. Anyone that is going through this, or if you know someone who is, do take a listen to that episode, just because you'll know this journey. You'll know what we're talking about. So definitely take a listen. And I have to say, the last few minutes of that episode really get to me. If you know, you know, and you're part of that story now too. So thank you for listening. Movie quotes. Bottom line, it turns out I am not the only one who quotes TV and movie lines all day, every day, thrown liberally in and out of the conversation. Episode 32, I'm not a witch, I'm your wife. The title is a quote from The Princess Bride, which is obviously one of the greatest movies of all time. Oh, you're asking where it comes from? Well, take a listen.
Distinctly said to blave, and as we all know, to
Billy
blave
Crystal.
means
Yes.
to bluff. Huh? So you're probably playing cards, and he cheated.
Liar! Liar! Liar!
Get back, witch!
I'm not a witch, I'm your wife. But after what you just said, I'm not even sure I want to be that anymore.
You never had it so good.
True love. He said true love, Max.
Don't say
My
another
God.
word, Valerie.
He's afraid. Ever since Prince Humperdinck fired him, his confidence is shattered.
Why'd you say that name? You promised me that you would never say that name.
What? Humperdinck?
Ah!
Humperdinck! Humperdinck! Humperdinck!
You know what's funny is I pulled out I'm not a witch, I'm your wife. But from that very short clip, I mean, that clip is not even, it's barely 30 seconds long. We also say all the time, liar! and we also, every once in a while, if need demands it, say Humperdinck, 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 Humperdinck. So there you go, in a very short period of time. And I am not the only one around here that loves Princess Bride. You know who you are, and I appreciate you. Trader Joe's, episode 36. I would be remiss if I did a look back at my 52 episodes and didn't say, hey, who would have thought that an episode that is a shopping list would be so popular? But you know what? That doesn't surprise me because I always stop too. I never pass up an opportunity to see what other people are buying at Trader Joe's. I'm talking online, among friends, podcasts, glimpsing into carts. It gives me amazing ideas, both for products I haven't tried or for hacks for mixing things, like the one I told you about that's one package of Trader Joe's cooked lentils, find them in the produce section, a container of their prepared bruschetta topping, and then a container of their feta crumbles, and then you mix all that together, and it becomes an insane dip. I mean, who knew? Who knew? So I'll leave you with how it all started. Episode 1. So far from perfect. I am so far from perfect. I made it through a lot of FFTs to get here, and I'm still finding my way. I think a lot about whether I need to focus this podcast on one topic. Would it be food stories? I also want to see what it is like to host a podcast not in the midst of a global pandemic. You see, I had a notion when I launched that part of what I wanted to do was to talk about my experiences with travel and food and trying new things. But it's been more difficult to have fabulous new experience or just rote new experiences during the pandemic. Life has been a little bit more routine. So there is much more to learn. Onward we go. Thank you. Thank you for listening to a year of TC After Dark. Thank you for subscribing and for reaching out to me with reaction and reviews and ideas. Thank you for sharing your favorite episode or 2 or 3 with friends. It means the absolute world to me. In order for podcasts to work, people have to listen. And I feel you out there. I feel our community, our tribe of people that understand that beyond our real jobs, beyond the workday, there's another whole world of interests and activities and passions. That's what this is all about. So thank you for this year. Because remember, 52 episodes in, when that on-air light goes off, it's time for TC After Dark.